Euclid, sometimes called Euclid of Alexandria to distinguish him from Euclid of Megara. He was a great mathematician, often referred to as the father of geometry. He was active in Alexandria during the reign of Ptolemy I. His Element is one of the most influential works in the history of mathematics, serving as the main textbook for teaching mathematicians, especially geometry, from the time of its publication until the late 19th century or early 20th century. In the Element, Euclid deduced the principles of what is now called Euclidean geometry from a small set of axioms. Euclid also wrote works on perspective, conic section, spherical geometry, number theory, and rigor. Euclid is the anglicized version of the Greek name which means renowned, glorious. His life. Very few original references to Euclid survive, so little is known about his life. The date, place, and circumstances of both his birth and death are unknown and may only be estimated roughly relative to other figures mentioned alongside him. He is rarely mentioned by name by other Greek mathematicians from Archimedes onwards, who usually call him the author of Elements. The few historical references to Euclid were written centuries after he lived by Proclus and Pappus of Alexandria. Proclus introduced Euclid only briefly in his commentary on the Element. According to Proclus, Euclid belonged to Plato's persuasion and brought together the elements, drawing on prior work by several pupils of Plato. Proclus believed that Euclid is not much younger than this and that he must have lived during the time of Ptolemy I because he was mentioned by Archimedes. Although the apparent citation of Euclid by Archimedes has been judged to be an interpolation by later editors of his work, it is still believed that Euclid wrote his work before those of Archimedes. Proclus later retells a story that when Ptolemy I asked if there was a shorter path to learning geometry than Euclidean elements, Euclid replied there is no royal road to geometry. This anecdote is questionable since it is similar to a story told about Menacmus and Alexander the Great. In the only other key reference to Euclid, Pappus briefly mentioned in the 4th century that Apollonius spent a very long time with the pupils of Euclid at Alexandria, and it was thus that they acquired such a significant habit of thought. A detailed biography of Euclid is given by Arabian authors, mentioning, for example, the birth town of Tyre. This biography is generally believed to be completely fictitious. Because of the lack of biographical information, it is unusual for the period. Extensive biographies are available for most significant Greek mathematicians for several centuries before and after Euclid. Some research have proposed that Euclid was not in fact a historical character and that his works were written by a team of mathematicians who took the name Euclid from the historical character Euclid of Megara. However, his hypothesis is not well accepted by scholars and there is little evidence in its favor. Elements. Although many of the results in Elements originated with earlier mathematicians, one of Euclid's accomplishments was to present them in a single, logical, coherent framework, making it easy to use and easy to reference, including a system of rigorous mathematical proofs that remains the basis of mathematics 23 centuries later. There is no mention of Euclid in the earlier remaining copies of the Element, and most of the copies say they are from the editor of Theon or the lector of Theon. while the text considered it to be primary, held by the Vatican, mention no author. The only reference that historians rely on Euclid having written the element was from Proclus, who briefly in his commentary on the elements ascribed Euclid as its author. Although best known for its geometric results, the element also includes number theory. It considers the connection between perfect numbers and Mersenne primes, the infinitude of prime numbers, Euclid's lemma of factorization, and the Euclidean algorithm for finding the greatest common divisor of two numbers. The geometrical system described in the elements was long known simply as geometry and was considered to be the only geometry possible. Today, however, that system is often referred to as Euclidean geometry to distinguish it from other so-called non-Euclidean geometries that mathematicians discovered in the 19th century.